Good morning, my beloved. Good morning. What a wonderful, graceful way to begin our time of worship together. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church at Pittsburgh. It is Sunday, October 6th of 2024. I am the Reverend Dr. K.R. Walker. I use the she, her pronouns, and I am honored to serve as your minister. For those with visual disability, I'm a middle-aged, light-skinned female. My hair is in a bob, and I wear glasses, and today I'm wearing a slightly purple and white abstract dress with a stole. You are all welcome here. You are welcome if you are here in person in this beautiful sanctuary. You are welcome on YouTube, now or in the future. We are so glad that you have chosen to be here together. We are Unitarian Universalists, people of many beliefs and many origins of sexualities and genders. We're a multi-faith religious community where all are welcome. Diversity is celebrated. Questions are welcome and expected. And you, my beloved, are the good people who chose to be here today. And if this is your very first time with us, thank you for being with us. If you are in person or online, we're delighted to welcome you into our midst, and we hope you want to be in touch with us. We have a welcome table in the garden lobby, or you can explore who we are on our website. And at the main page of the website, down at the bottom, you will find information on how to subscribe to our newsletter. But send us an email, introduce yourself, let us know who you are and what you are seeking and why you're here today. We have a very active community, constantly engaged in all sorts of things, and today you are all privileged to enjoy a special lunch following service downstairs in the Undercroft room. And I'm sorry for all of you who are on YouTube, we're going to miss this day. But this is being hosted by our wonderful stewardship committee as we launch our rollover month, is what we might call it, but it is our annual recommitment to our stewardship and our financial health and well-being of our community. And we're just delighted that the Stewardship Committee remains so committed to making sure that this community has as much health and well-being as possible. In addition, the Arts and Dance Committee will be down there as well, looking for your talents. I hope you seek them out. Again, that's the Arts and the Dance Committee, and they are the creative heart of our community. And what else is going on? After service from 12 to 12:45, in the priestly room, you can join me in a theme of the month conversation. So our theme of the month for October is Unitarian Universalist History and Heritage, and you're welcome to grab some food and join me in the priestly room from 12 to 12:45. Next Sunday, October 13th, the Forum is hosting its second of the year conversation with, this is Dr. James, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Hughley, and the topic is Speaking Truth in Love, Navigating Facts and Fiction Surrounding Critical Race Theory. So please join them. That's at 9 a.m. next Sunday. And beloved, if any of you are experiencing financial difficulty with your bills, please reach out to me. We have a special fund for that. You can reach me by phone or by email, and we'd be happy to see what we can do to help mitigate any of your financial stresses. I invite you now to settle in and arrive in body and spirit as we imagine ourselves connected to Unitarian Universalists across the city, across this country and this world. As we imagine ourselves connected to people gathered in houses of worship throughout this weekend, this time when we bring our prayers of hope and peace together, this time when our hearts are breaking, we come together in worship. We turn to the symbol of our faith, our flaming chalice. May the light in this chalice kindle your hope, kindle your imagination for a better world. May it kindle your inspiration to be discontent with what is and aspire to what can be. Welcome, welcome to you all. I invite you to rise as you are able in body and spirit for number 20, Be Thou My Vision.
is my light. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, God. Thou my soul's shelter by day or night. Raising thee heavenward, O power of my power. Riches I heed not, nor world's empty praise. Thou my inheritance now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart. Sovereign of heaven, my treasure thou art.
Please join your voices with mine for our unison reading, the words of which can be found in your order of service. We name our collective recommitment to care for the earth. Knowing the ground we live upon is sacred, we pledge to bring new life to the earth, new life to the air, new life to the waters, new life to each other, for all life is sacred. Now I invite all those who are young or young at heart to join me on the stage over there, where I'll be sharing a small story about my hometown. Will, is this mic working? Oh, beautiful. It's nice to see you all here. So the theme of today's service is about utopias. Do any of you guys know what utopias are?
They're like places?
They're like places. Is there anything special about them? They're big places. What's your name? Rory. Yeah. Okay, so Phineas says that utopias are like a perfect place. I think that's a pretty good definition from all you guys. Utopias, to my mind, are places where people try to live out their values together in community. And the thing about that is it's really hard to do. So there have been a lot of attempts at utopias over the years, and most of them have failed. I'm from a town called Harvard, Massachusetts. It has nothing to do with the famous university you may have heard of. It's about 500 miles east of here in the woods of Massachusetts. And one of the fun things about Harvard is there's a lot of failed utopian communities there. So my mom and I used to go around on bikes, and we would bike through Shaker Lane, named after the Shakers, a failed utopian community. And then we would go down over the hills and see a place called Fruitlands, which is now a beautiful museum, but is indeed a failed utopian community. And then we would continue our bike ride, and we would go past some farming nuns who are still there, and in that way, they are also a utopian community, trying to live on the land and live in community with each other. But this is a story about Fruitlands. Fruitlands was founded about 180 years ago by two guys who are not the main characters of this story. This story is about a friend of theirs who I like to think of as the man who wore the beard. Now, I have a beard. It's not very exciting, it's pretty short. But back in the 1800s, wearing a beard was not a very seemly thing to do. Can you guys think of anything that people today would make fun of you for wearing or for doing? Rory, I see your ideas. Nothing. I can think something. Yeah, wearing nothing. If you were nude, people would make fun of you. They might even say mean things to you. Say it again. Yeah, being weird. And being weird, yeah, if you were bald, people might make fun of you. Yeah, being yourself. Maybe you're a man and you're in a dress, or maybe you're a woman who's wearing their hair short. But there's all sorts of things that if you wore them, people would not be kind to you. And this is what it was like to wear a beard in the 1840s. People called Joseph Palmer the devil for wearing a beard. They physically beat him up, and when he tried to defend himself, they sent him to jail. And he was in jail for many, many years, which is pretty awful. And they often try to settle this case. They would say, we'll let you out of jail to say that you did something wrong. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so he was a man who knew what was right and what was wrong. He knew when it was right to defend yourself and the things that it was okay and not okay to be persecuted for. Fruitlands, if you remember that, failed. It was not a very successful utopian community. It lasted 9 months. And the reason for this is because the people who founded it wanted to sit around in nature and talk about philosophy with each other. And they thought it would be really nice if just the women of the community, their wives and female children, did all the farming for them and cooked for them while they sat around. Does that sound fair? No. It's not fair. And that's why they failed, is because their community didn't think about what utopia looked like for everyone. They only thought about themselves and what they wanted. But after this community failed, Joseph Palmer, the man with the beard, bought the land, and he used it to start a benevolent society. From there, he housed people who needed housing. He used his money to fight against the injustices he'd experienced in prison. He fought for the abolition of slavery. He was a good guy. He was weird. He dressed in a way that people didn't like. But he knew what was right and what was wrong, and he used his money to try to make what was right happen. So I think of him sometimes. He's one of our Unitarian ancestors. He was there both to transform the things that weren't working, like the prison system and abolition of slavery. He needed to get rid of those. And he was also willing to be weird, to do things that other people said weren't okay, to just be himself, as you've said. So on his gravestone, there's a picture of him with his beard, and it says, Joseph Palmer, persecuted for wearing the beard. So I hope you think of him sometimes. I'd like to, when people are persecuting you for being weird, or when you see something that's wrong that you would like to change. Thank you. And then beards came into fashion. See, I got one. It's pretty cool. Anyone else? Mary, you got a beard?
No, I don't.
Not yet. Thank you for joining me. And if the congregation would please join their voices with mine and sing hymn 1059, May Your Life Be as a Song, and the children can walk out to that.
Your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing
as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
I am so delighted to welcome into our public space is our own board leader, Brian Junker. Woohoo! Thunderous applause.
Yeah. Well, I am your board president this year, and contrary to rumor, it actually is fun most of the time. Oh, I know what I have to do. No, it's just broken. Okay, so I'm here for a pledge testimonial. And I guess maybe I should say, first of all, why I'm a supporting member of this community. Well, this is a religious community whose values align with mine and whose members I cherish. There are so many people here, in fact, all of you, I cherish. I know many of you, and I cherish the relationships I have with you. And there are those of you whose faces I know, but I don't know personally, but I'm so glad that you're here too. To speak of some of the values that matter to me, that are part of this community, our commitment to environmental justice, which we read collectively about just a few minutes ago, our commitment to the interdependent web of all things, and to me the most important one is a value that was it's often in a reading that we do, and it's in the current values. You can find them in the new version of Article 2 of the UUA, and that is our commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every person. In fact, a few years ago, I was asked to participate in a panel discussion at Carnegie Mellon University about religion and science. And of course, I had to speak a little bit about the Unitarian Church. And basically what I said is, how can you beat a religious organization where a fundamental value is the inherent worth and dignity of every person? Come on in, the water's fine. Well, that's also maybe the most difficult of our commitments, because it's easy to value the inherent worth and dignity of every person in this room. But you also have to value the inherent worth and dignity of those folks in your neighborhood whose political yard signs you may not agree with. And there are others too. And that's a challenge, and it's a challenge that I don't always meet, but I always appreciate that it's my challenge. But that's not what today is about. That's not what this little talk is about. What this is really about is that I come to you today with hat in hand. I will leave the hat there for a moment, but you know the symbol. It's time to recommit to your stewardship of this religious community. There are many ways you can do this. One of the most gratifying, I think, most personally gratifying, is to contribute your time as a volunteer. And today, the Arts and Dance, I think it's Arts and Dance, is that right? They will have tables downstairs. You can talk to them about how you could volunteer with them. Over the course of the past several weeks, there have been many organizations, many committees and other organizations within the church that have been here to tell you about what they do and how you might contribute by volunteering to them. That's obviously very important. It's a part of what makes this church work. And there are other ways to volunteer also. But of course, another way to commit yourself or recommit yourself to stewardship here is by contributing money to help support the operation of the church. You either have received or will soon receive a pledge letter that encourages you to increase your pledge by 5% this year. That's very important. Those of you who are really perceptive will realize that inflation to date is about 2.5%. And you may say, well, if it's 2.5%, why are we being asked to raise our pledge by 5%? There are two answers to that. The first answer is not everyone will be able to afford the 5% increase. And so if you increase your pledge by 5%, that compensates for people who can't otherwise do so, and we get enough to meet the inflation costs that we have. If as many of us contribute at that increased level as can do, then we can maintain what we have as a church. Essentially, nothing new, and essentially nothing lost. At the end of each year, we end up maybe a couple $1,000s ahead or a couple $1,000s behind, but basically we break even on that budget. So it's just to maintain what we have. It's very important that you renew your pledge. It doesn't account for other things that we might like to do. For example, if there's a emergency of some kind, if the roof leaks and it has to be immediately addressed, or the boiler breaks and it immediately has to be addressed because some parts of the church are still heated by the boiler, not by the system that we have, the environmentally green system that we have, or other kinds of unplanned expenses. We have enough in our budget to run as we are, but if there was a large unplanned expense, it would be difficult for us to meet that expense without losing other things that are important to us in the budget. So whatever you can give, it's going to help us build up the budget so that we don't have that risk to things that we really like. There are positives that we would also like to address. For example, I feel we're so blessed this year to have Mac here. One of the things Mac is doing is campus ministry. He's reaching out to the campuses. We have not had that for several years, and it is so important. Mac will be here for a year. After that, we don't have someone who can reach out to the campuses nearby us, and that's such an important source of, people who can contribute to the things that we value. Okay? That usually is a paid position. Another paid position or another kind of paid position that we are thinking about, in fact, it's in the strategic plan that the board just passed for 2024 through 2027, is considering hiring additional staff to cover childcare and additional RE needs. That's going to be a very short conversation if we don't have the money to pay those staff members. So these are things that are positives, that grow our community in various ways, that make it more possible for families to be here, that draw in new members from the campus communities. These are all things that are important for us in addition to just maintaining what we have already, okay? So please, there's two ways that you can contribute. One is if you go to the church website, first-unitarian-pittsburgh.pgh.org, you'll find a yellow strip at the top of the web page where you can click and renew your pledge. Or you can wait for your pledge letter and respond to it when you get it. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. So the pledge letters that Brian mentioned are downstairs in the Undercroft. You can pick them up after service while you're feasting on the delicious lunch there. And again, for those of you who are online, oh, and look for Ward. He's this beautiful man in the front row in the red jacket. For those of you online, you are already able to find our website address. I'm going to talk briefly about another way of contributing. Each month we do a Share the Plate. Last month we were working with Valley Clean Air Now. This month we're working with the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, or PIN. We're going to hear more about them next week from Sandy Woolley, but I'll just say briefly that they're a Pittsburgh-based interfaith network. I've had the privilege of working with them, and we have 4 main issues that we've been focusing on. And if you are able to give a few dollars to help out with that as we pass the plates around, that would be very welcome. As always, half of the proceeds go to them, and half the proceeds go to our fundamental operating budget. Thank you very much.
Blessed, beloved community, we gather with our hearts of joys and sorrows, coming together to share them, sometimes out loud and sometimes in silence. But just being together helps ease. I offer that Mary Alice Japrowski is recovering well from her broken arm, and she is still in a nursing care facility. And that was in addition to her shoulder replacement. But if you could please feel free to reach out to her as she continues to recover. I also invite you, if your hearts and your generosity are capable, many of us are watching what's happening from Helene, particularly Western North Carolina, and parts of Tennessee and Florida and Virginia. And the UUA at their main website has a fund specifically for Unitarian Universalists to apply to. And it's on their main webpage at uua.org if you would like to go there and donate to that relief fund. I have heard through social media from the minister in Asheville, and that their church is, the building itself is fine, but several members have lost their homes completely and their businesses, and it's going to be a long road to recovery from our beloved in Asheville, but throughout Western North Carolina, I'm afraid. And your love and your prayers and your financial support are appreciated. And let us offer our affirmation and prayers this week for throughout this early October for the Jewish high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I invite you now to join me in prayer as I offer a special prayer for healing in Palestine and Israel, as tomorrow we mark a one-year anniversary of a horrific attack on Israel by Hamas. Beloved people of Palestine and Israel, we see your pain and your long history filled with death and murder and violence and terror and a loss that can never be fully healed. We bear witness to your pain and cry with you as your human companions, and most days that's all we can offer. We see your fear at being annihilated and destroyed, of being forgotten, never being known, your story, your culture decimated, and we honor your fear. Our eyes are filled with wet, stinging, salty tears of grief. We see how much you carry in your heart of ancestors in a rich tapestry bound by threads of beautiful songs and lamentations, the notes scattered in the stars of the heaven. We celebrate your rich culture, filled with haunting lyrics, ancient stories, rituals embedded with meaning, and a God of love, of passion and justice and anger. We hear your songs and stories echoed from those stars, and we respect your God, for this is our God too, bound by the light of life itself and the strength of an unbreakable love. We are slowly understanding the complexity of your history, a land never forgotten, tied to bones buried deep beneath heavy rocks, cleared to till the land, carved by rivers of sweat, and rooted by fruit trees, all bound to your ancestors' labor and faithfulness. We know that too many of us have never needed to understand the maze of histories that are not our own because of being born in privilege. We bow in humility to all that you are, have been, and the dreams you have hidden in the night. We honor this complex heritage filled with nuance, fractured and broken by forces beyond control. Too much to bear or fathom in one book, one song, one story, or one star. On this day and in this time, our hearts break, along with a billion other broken hearts across the centuries of devastations. O Palestine, you were never fully born, torn apart by centuries of conquest and power-hungry, mighty forces. You lost so much before you ever took your first steps, betrayed by those pledged to support and affirm your existence. Your angry blood now lies in the stones of your homes in which you once prayed to Allah for help. You've been cast out from your beds and dreams of peaceful days. May your land be yours again one day free of terror and humiliation. May your murdered children know their parents' love. May your fighters lay down their bitter anger and need for revenge. May the world hear your cry for peace and freedom. O Israel, your people carry an ancient covenant, a great promise made to an honored ancestor and held sacred throughout the ages of persecution, of murder and pogroms and Holocaust. You have run in terror for so long. You seek the deep roots and hard rock of protection, held by both ancient and new stories. You seek to honor your ancestors with sacred waters of transformation, and there you believe you will be safe. There you feel no shame, never to be a victim again. May your land one day be yours, free of terror and filled with peace. May your homes not be built upon the homes of others, but instead shared with compassion and trust. Palestine, understandably, you are looking for help from your powerful allies. You are small and crushed. You seek yet more bullets and bombs, declarations enforced, but divine justice tied to a soldier's Arab boot. We beg you to lay down your anger, your fears, and losses. Israel, you are powerful, held by the world's guilt and shame and pride. You have everything except security. The only thing between you and completion of a vision cast by God to Moses and held in your ancient story, you are God's people. We beg you to lay down your anger, your fear, and your losses, for we are all God's people. It may be the hardest thing anyone has ever done in this earth, but we may all be lost if you do not let go. Let Palestine have its own land to plant and sleep and make love and raise children free of hate. O great people and the God of love and justice, you are bound by an ancient ancestor. Together, Abraham, father of faith, father of our common lands, your common lands, you are bound by stories, stones, and then the many blessings of a God, not guns. May the leaders stop the bullets and bombs, return the hostages and prisoners, bind your wounds, calm your fears. May we all listen with the ear of our hearts, lean into our love and know the God of peace. Only then can our human hearts be bound not by tears and pain, but by laughter and joy. Amen. I invite you to bring your voices together as we sing 399, Vine and Fig Tree.
Everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree live in peace and unafraid, and into plowshares turn their souls. Shall live in peace and unafraid, and plowshares turn their swords. Nations shall learn war no more, and into plowshares turn their swords. Nations shall learn war no more. Plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more.
This is a reading from the Reverend Dr. Kiyama Raman, who served as a minister on the U.S. Virgin Islands. She is now retired from ministry, but still a wonderful poet and thinker. Now is the time to call on the memories of the ancestors who thought they could not walk another step toward freedom, and yet they did. It is that time and place to call on the memories of the ancestors who, when the darkness of their lives threatened to take away the hope and light, reached a little deeper and prayed yet another prayer. It is that time and place to remember those who came through the long night to witness another sunrise. It is that time and place to remember the oceans of tears shed to deliver us to this time, to remember the bent knees and bowed backs, to remember the fervent voices asking, begging, beseeching for loved ones sold off. Time to remember their laughter and joy, though they had far less and little reason for optimism, yet they stayed on the path toward a better day. Time to hold to the steadfast hands and hearts and prayers of the ancestors that have brought us this far. Time to make them proud and show them and ourselves what we are made of. Time to show them that their prayers and sacrifices and lives were not in vain, did not go unnoticed, nor have they been forgotten. Did you not know that this day would come? Did you not know that we would have to change places? Did you not know that just as our ancestors were delivered, that you would also be delivered? Have you not seen the greatness and power of the creative energy in the universe called God that moves and has its being through human agency? Have you not seen God in your neighbors' faces, in the homeless, in the battered woman, the trafficked child, the undocumented worker, the dispossessed? It is that time and that place to know that it is our turn, that we must leave a legacy for our children and all the children. It is that time and that place. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. For that, let us be eternally grateful. Amen, and blessed be.
Have any of you ever been present for the end of a vision, of something worked hard for, and it ends? Perhaps it was people left because they were hungry, as we heard about the story in Fruitlands. Or perhaps it was because the vision was successful and it was transforming into something else. Or maybe it was just a failure and everybody gave up. Back in 1999 to 2002, I worked and volunteered for the New Alchemy Institute, which was in Falmouth, Massachusetts. That's Cape Cod, for those of you unfamiliar with that geography. New Alchemy was started back in 1969. It was a small farm with a utopian-inspired vision, with clear goals to do research on alternative energy and sustainable agriculture. The Institute actually helped establish our today's foundational understanding of terms like what is organic, what is biodiversity and crop rotation, and using fisheries for waste management. They were the cutting edge in the 70s and 80s. I, in my role as staff, helped with public relations, media, and member-subscriber relations, and I was helped shoveling manure into the greenhouse because that was the source of heat. I think I like that part best. At the time, I was working on my master's in social ecology, and I was started as an intern and then hired on staff and found myself dedicated as a volunteer. I also got to lead tour groups for schools and clubs. I introduced them to the Buckminster Fuller's idea of a geodesic dome heated by the sun. And then I got to invite them at the end of the tour to eat flowers and edible, beautiful petals. Unfortunately, in the early 2000s, we saw a significant drop in our primary funding that came from the Department of Agriculture. And that was because that the land-grant universities had discovered all this research money for organics and sustainable agriculture. New Alchemy Institute was a success, a vision that was cast and embraced. I was present for that very emotional board meeting. I'm sure its volunteers on that board remember that day, the decision to sell this beautiful farmland after years of cultivation of its rich and its diverse fields and its greenhouses and its way of finding alternative lifestyle. The decision to sell that was devastating for many of us. Yet we were ready to cast new visions for what could come next. And one thing we were in agreement about is it would not go to a developer. Our sorrow was mitigated by the offer that soon followed by a group of former staffers who offered their new vision to buy the land and the farm and all of its buildings and turn it into a co-housing intentional community. It was transferred into the hands of those who had loved it for so many decades, and it truly was a celebration. Communal living is a branch that comes out of the exploration of utopia, both as a literary genre and literally as a societal creation in a particular time and place. Utopianism, in its many branches, generally comes from the human imagination to create something better than what is. It's a balancing act between dissatisfaction and hope. Utopian visions are acts of the human imagination, which I believe is the essential ingredient for human survival. To the best of our knowledge, no other species has this capacity to imagine something different than what is. Utopian thinkers rely on the human passion to push past contentment, to demand more, to expect more than the minimum amount. Utopian or utopia is a term that was invented by Thomas More in the 15th century. And he invented it actually as a pun on utopia, E-U-T-O-P-I-A, which means good place. Dropping the E and just having utopia alone with the U simply means no place, making the primary characteristic of a utopia with just U-T-O-P-I-A as non-existence. It's a good pun. The corresponding dystopia also holds our human imagination, and your preference, of which you prefer to read about and hopefully not create dystopia, is which way do you lean toward pessimism or optimism? There are generally considered two types of utopia. There is sensual gratification and human contrivance. There are two different ways of imagining and creating something better. Sensual gratification usually are gifts by God or a higher being. It's marked by simplicity, security, immortality, or an easy death, and it's unity among the people and with their God. There is an abundance of everything with an easy life. There's minimal labor and no strife between humans and other animals. If women are present, they're usually not. They give birth without pain, and they're held in subservient roles. Thus, the long list of failed utopias. Examples are the Garden of Eden, various versions of paradise that are found in many religious myths. Now, human contrivance utopias, this version comes in because the human need for power and control. Think Plato's Republic. Every culture has some version of both the sensual gratification and human contrivance. Famous utopias you've probably heard about or read. There's Thomas More's Utopia, which launched the avalanche of literary utopia. Shakespeare's The Tempest, Francis Bacon, The New Atlantis, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, Edward Bellamy's Looking Backward. My particular favorites, Ursula K. Le Guin's collection of fantasy stories based on utopias. It's a long list of exciting and failed, both cast and lost. Many utopias turn into real efforts. People take it literally. They're driven from that long list of literature. They've turned it into many religious monasteries. The Rule of Benedict is the oldest in the communities. And more recently, we have the communes of the 1960s. My brother used to be a member and live on the farm in Tennessee. And there's kibbutzim in Israel, all more well known. And in each we learn about their successes and their failures and how to live in peace and harmony. And each is witnessing the considerable capacity of the human imagination to cast something that is better for all. The challenge is, of course, that vision for something better may not have consensus or even minimal agreement or support. Some have been disastrous. We can't say, drink the Kool-Aid without thinking of an ideology that is forced upon somebody in fatal ways. We remember Jonestown in Guyana. Others have been established and embedded with classism, racism, ableism, layers of elitism and intellectualism and all sexism. One such example of this trend is a contemporary casting that is coming from the marriage of Bitcoins in Silicon Valley. No, this is not going in a good place. You can see it right off the mark. With too much money and ego, the Silicon Valley billionaires are casting visions of utopian villages in small experiments all over the world. They're inspired as a network states, network states. Each are self-contained around like-minded people with total control over the economy, the governance, and their means of production. They're placed in generous, money-needy small countries or on islands with minimal inhabitants, but big enough to have a private airport. These idealized utopias appear to be kind of a cross of sensual gratification and human contrivance, the gifts of the god of divine ingenuity given to the billionaire, simplistic living, the focus on fun, totally controlled by the originator, who is not God despite the billionaire's egotistical tendencies. And they feed off the rejection of the complexities and the messiness of democracy and a belief that the US is headed down the drain of its own cesspool of chaos. And there it is again, that human balancing act between dissatisfaction and hope. And this is what if this is what our contemporary era manifests for utopian village, or at least coming out of the Silicon Valley gods, what might Unitarian Universalist vision manifest? Now, first of all, Unitarian and Universalists are not immune to the balancing act of dissatisfaction and hope. We have long been strivers, casting better visions of the world. Our October theme of the month of UU history and heritage makes sense than to bring in our transcendentalists, and specifically Amos Bronson Alcott, who is the co-founder of Fruitlands. Mac introduced us to Alcott, and we know the name because he was the father of his daughter was the Louisa May Alcott, author of Little Women. Alcott and the whole family were good 19th century Unitarian family, and they had a vision. Well, Bronson did, Amos Bronson did. I'm not sure about the rest of the family, that's debatable. But this vision was derived from transcendentalism, or Alcott's view of transcendentalism was a sort of religious anarchism, a renunciation of the world to focus on the spirit alone. He believed that spiritual regeneration was linked to physical health, that an outward abstinence is a sign of inward fullness and completion, that it was based on working as a community. Fruitlands also hoped for individual improvement. Alcott put a strong emphasis on education and hope for the children's natural intuition and innocence, and that they would have a rejuvenating effect on their elders. I kind of agree with that part. There were at least known 14 residents of Fruitlands. They didn't actually keep very good records. They ate no animal substances. They drank only water. They bathed in unheated water, and the property was held communally with no animal labor used whatsoever. It appears that some came and some went, meaning they gained a reputation of, and I really want to hang on to this word, they gained a reputation of being consecrated cranks. Consecrated cranks. I want to grow up to be a consecrated crank. And that was a reflection of their strong convictions. They strongly believed in the ideas of simplicity, sincerity, and brotherly love, and yes, it was brotherly love. Alas, they arrived on their land too late for the planting season, and without animals and with their soft, intellectualized hands, their preference to philosophize over work, well, they didn't have enough food to eat come the harsh winter in Massachusetts. Now, I'm sure the decision to sell the land was painful, yet if you were paying attention, it was sold to a former resident. Sound familiar? My experience at New Alchemy. Joseph Palmer and his very long beard. Another vision that was cast, and he went on for over 20 years, becoming a refuge for cultural and political reformers and a place of honest activism. Now, This is part of our Unitarian Universalist history and our heritage. And this morning, as we officially launch our fall stewardship campaign, I invite you to join me in casting a vision, or recommitting yourself to creating a vision that is better for all. It's built on the utopian impulse of not being fully satisfied with current conditions, where we do not have access for all to food and education, employment and healthcare and housing. We need a vision of true equity and generosity. As we learn and we celebrate this month about our Unitarian Universalist history and our heritage, the powerful words from Kiyama Raman's reading remind us to tap the powerful stories of our UU ancestors who have struggled against oppression, and they cast their visions for us. We inherit their visions, and it's time to make them proud, as Raman said, and let them know what we are made of. It is time to show that their prayers and their sacrifices were not made in vain. And as we cast our vision, let us be clear, though, about Raman's powerful poem was written for her Black and African American ancestors, and she included, though, in her beliefs and in her prayers, Unitarian Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, a powerful writer, speaker, and abolitionist. All of these ancestors and Raman's words call for a vision where we look into the eyes of our neighbors, where we see those without homes, to see the faces of the trafficked children, battered women, the undocumented worker, and the dispossessed. If we're casting a vision of utopia, it means we are not content, not satisfied, and ready to work for a better world with our imagination and our hard labor. And if we're casting a vision with our Unitarian Universalist values firmly in place, it must include love at its core, held together by a vast network of the interconnected web of existence and a clear commitment to justice. We are Universalists, which means we believe that all are worthy of saving, and we are Unitarians united by a divine love. And here's the thing about utopias, that as Thomas More wrote, it is a place of non-existence. And perhaps that is the real trick behind his pun. Utopia isn't a place. It's not a destination, like some sensual gratification, a perpetual vacation called paradise, or a human contrivance called Fruitlands. It is a messy, confusing, confounding, conflicted, ugly, annoying, fun, fabulous, joyful, gorgeous, and love-filled journey. And we and this country call it a republic, held together and ruled by democracy. Our directions for Unitarian Universalist Utopia are held in these words that I offer you for your GPS. We honor the independent web of all existence. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We adapt to the changing world. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. These words, or the directions to a Unitarian Universalist utopia, are found in the Unitarian Universalist bylaws. We just voted them in as our new values. Will you join me by committing your financial resources, your time, your talent to creating this place that needs to become very, very real? May it be so. Blessed be, and Ashe. I invite you to rise as you're able for for our closing hymn, 1017, Building a New Way.
We are
building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Love is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry.
I invite you to join your voices together as we extinguish our chalice. The words are found in our heart as well as in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forth, my beloved, go forth into this world with a vision where all are loved, all are cared for, all know that they are welcome to be alive in this beautiful world. Let us create peace and freedom for all as Unitarian Universalists and as human beings. Return again with love. Blessed be.
you.